Hi there, fellow sea glass lovers. Thanks for joining me today. I'm Jackie. Now, in last week's video, I showed you how I created this quilted wall hanging based on one of my sea glass designs. But as I stand back looking at it, I think something is missing. So I looked at my sea glass design and I noticed that this dragonfly really makes the design for me. And I think I need to add a dragonfly to my quilted piece. So a dragonfly right in this area of the design I think would really tie the piece together. So what I'm doing to make my dragonfly, I have taken a piece of soluble interfacing. So this is going to melt when I soak it in water and go away. So I'm just going to have thread left. And I've drawn a picture of a dragonfly in pencil on that. And I have it inside this little frame here to keep it nice and taut while I'm doing some thread painting. So this is a thread painting technique. And what I'm using for threads, I want this to be fairly translucent. So I'm using some pastel-y colors. I have a nice pale green in the bottom. I'm going to use a bit of a darker green around the edge. And then I've got some other greens and yellows, some pink and blue, very pale, because dragonflies are really translucent. And I'm using my free motion foot, and I'm going to go around the edges of the wings of the dragonfly. If you've done much thread painting, you'll probably find this fairly good and easy to do. I am at a practice with thread painting. You basically are wanting to just use a whole whack of thread. And I'm going around the edges first. Now I have my edges done. Now I have discovered something that is amazing for dragonflies. I have a little piece of craft wire, and this one has a bit of white coating around it. So what I'm going to do is put this in here, and I want this all the way around the edge of my dragonfly. So I'm going to do that first with a little bit of zigzag stitch, kind of a small one, because I wanted to hold this in place all the way around. Whoops, that didn't work. Needs to stay in place. I can cut off the end of it. So I can just go like this. And then I can just, you see how this works so well by the time I finish it. Because I can make the wings fly. Because they'll be stiff around the edges. Now I've changed the thread from the darker green to a really pale green, and I have this area that I want to fill in with thread, so I want to thread paint. And I need to build a bit of a grid for the thread to stick to. Forgot to change it to straight stitch, change it back from the zigzag stitch to the straight stitch. You can use it on zigzag stitch. When I was taught how to do this, the person used zigzag stitch. But I kind of like creating a bit of a grid with my straight stitch. And I'm going to just go back and forth. And I don't have to do it all in this color. I'm going to introduce the other colors after a bit. In each one of these wings, and then I go this way. So the grid is attaching on the edge. You have to remember that this background is going to all melt away. So having tons of layers of thread, this is how they're attached in place. So now I have my Spiderweb Grid all built in the wings of the Dragonfly, and I've changed my thread to a really pale yellow thread, and I'm just going to sew and thread paint in here with the yellow, and then I'm going to add some pink, really pale pink, and some pale blue. And because the grid is built, I know all of this thread is going to stick really well. And the pale colors are going to help me create translucent looking wings. So after going around the outside of the wings again, I think my Dragonfly is all thread painted. And I'm not too worried about the body of the Dragonfly because I'm going to sew that directly onto my quilt after I soak off all of the soluble interfacing. So I'm just going to take this and soak it overnight so all of that gooey stuff melts away. I'll go around and cut it out first and then soak off whatever's left, and then I'll be able to sew it onto my quilt, and I'll show you how the wings work. Okay, that soluble interfacing melted away really quickly, and now I have my Dragonfly. It stands on its own. It's just thread and it all sticks together. So I'm going to put my Dragonfly onto my quilt, and I want to put it right about there. So I have attached my walking foot because I find the walking foot works really well for quilting something through the quilt with the bat and everything there. So I'm just going to get this ready. I'm using the same green thread that I used to go around the edges. I'm going to do a zigzag stitch with kind of a small zigzag because I don't want a really big body. So this is making the body of the Dragonfly. I'm going to make that kind of close. Those stitches are going to be close together. And I'm just going to use this to sew just the body on. And there you go. I have a Dragonfly. And this is the trick. This is why I put that craft wire in the wings, because it makes those wings flexible, and now they're not sewn down, just the body's sewn down, and I can make those wings fly. I can twist them whatever way I want so that it looks like the Dragonfly is coming right up from my quilt. That'll give it a really nice effect. But I have one more step I want to do because, as you know, I love the sea glass, and a Dragonfly body is in segments. So I'm going to create a Dragonfly body with brown sea glass. So what I use for glue is this Quick Seal Kitchen and Bath Adhesive Caulking. This is clear. It goes on white and then it dries clear. This is what I use for my sea glass art, and I have used it many times on fabric, and it works fabulously. It never falls off, and it sticks really well to the fabric. So what I've decided, I'm going to use this little caramel colored pebble for the Dragonfly's head, and I'm just going to squeeze a bit of that silicone caulking onto the back of that, and then just put it in place, and then it will set dry. And then I have picked out some of my small brown sea glass. And a dragonfly's body is built in segments. So having these pieces of sea glass actually represents a dragonfly's body very well. And one more. And then I'm going to give him a tiny little tail. Now I'll just let that set until that silicone dries clear, and then I'll know it's well adhered. Now when I zoom out from my dragonfly and look at my piece as a whole, I'm so much happier with it. There really was something missing, and now I look at that design and it seems complete. So I really hope you enjoyed this video and it gave you some ideas for designing in your sea glass art and other art. And until next time, I hope you make it out to the beach, and happy sea glass hunting.